It's come down to a single race. There are only 3 competitors left in the fight. Today, they'll battle for the PPG Cup. One of racing's most prized possessions. When most people come to the Monterey Peninsula, they think of Pebble Beach, some great golf, and of course that world-famous 18th hole. But this weekend, INDYCAR has invaded the area as ESPN Speed World welcomes you to the Toyota Grand Prix of Monterey, featuring the Bank of America 300. And they have been pouring into this track throughout the morning, and the tension here is so thick you could absolutely cut it. 3 men, 1 name will remain at the end of the day, and that will be the champion. Now, here's the scenario on how that plays. For Jimmy Vasser, it's a 6th or better, and he clinches the championship. For Michael Andretti, depending on what Jimmy Vasser does beyond that, it's a 3rd or better, and he could have the championship. And for Al Unser Jr., again, depending on Jimmy Vasser, it is a win or nothing whatsoever.
And they're starting in 5th, 11th, and 13th spot.
Now already, one of the points for the weekend has been given away. That's the one for the pole. It went to Alex Zanardi yesterday.
And he was the first time here for him. That's a big pole position, and what a beautiful track. Freshly repaved, new corners at 10 and 11, and that turn 6, the curbing has been giving a lot of people problems during practice.
So all in all, we're looking forward to one magnificent and exciting day as people really are going to have to work their way through this field if they want to get the championship. There's the map of the circuit.
And what a beautiful track it is, and you can see those dotted white lines. That's the old circuit. They've extended that hairpin another 300 feet, the pits, and what a great job they've done, and they completely repaved the entire track.
All right, so as the cars have already started their engines, we are ready for the start of the 16th and final PPG run of the year. Here's the grid. So here's the way they qualified with Alex Zanardi, the 6th pole of the year for the 96th Rookie of the Year. Alongside it's Brian Herta. He's finished in the top 6 in the last 6 races. The second row, Mauricio Gulgerman, his best starting spot of the season, and his teammate Mark Blundell alongside. This is his best starting position in an IndyCar. Row 3, Jimmy Vasser, who looks to win his first championship, and Greg Moore. The 4th row, Andre Ribeiro and Christian Fittipaldi. Row 5, Bobby Rahal, who won 4 in a row here, 84 through 87, and Scott Pruitt. In row number 6, Michael Andretti, a 2-time winner here, 91 and 92, and Parker Johnstone. In the 7th row, Al Unser Jr., who's looking at his first winless season since 1987, and Gil DeFerrin, who won his first race in an IndyCar here last year. The 8th row, Robbie Gordon and Jan Magnussen. Row 9, Max Pappas and Paul Tracy. In row 10, it's Stefan Johansson and Adrian Fernandez. In row 11, Davy Jones, who flipped his car in qualifying yesterday, and Raul Boisel. In row 12, Roberto Moreno and Richie Hearn. The 13th row, Michel Jourdain Jr. and Hiroma Shushida. 14th row, Scott Goodyear and Juan Fangio. And row 15 is P.J. Jones. Well, there's the lineup, and here they are. Turn 2, the famous hairpin here. 186 miles, 83 laps. Zanardi, we already mentioned, is the pole sitter. Paul Tracy holds the race record. We expect the first stops, depending on yellows, to come at the 27th or the 28th lap. Now, Danny, let's take a look at the circuit in regard to where you can pass.
Well, the green and red show passing, but those are also tricky and dangerous spots up there. But those are the best opportunities. Just the green, that's a place where you'll see a pass on probably a slower car. You probably won't see a pass in there with somebody that's really quick. And that one red that was in the corner up there, that's been a problem all weekend long because of that curb that I mentioned earlier.
You take a look over the helmet of Michael Andretti, one of the contenders in the championship. We will be listening to his two-way radio throughout the day as he battles for the championship. and many people think he is very definitely a contender and can get the job done. On board Bobby Rahal.
Right there, that curbing on the outside, that was what I was talking about. That's what gave people problems. Jimmy Vasser, Al Unser Jr., Alex Zanardi, a lot of people had offs there.
And speaking of Jimmy Vasser, here he is as he starts down through the famous corkscrew. And as they head off the final turn, we look at Robbie Gordon's car. And Alex Zanardi also is carrying an onboard for us today. You look from the pole position, the pace car has already begun to accelerate. They come down the hill through turn 10, the new turn 10, and head for that final right-hand left-hander, right-angle left-hander that will take them to the green flag. Zanardi, Herta on the front row. Green flag is just ahead of that bridge. Zanardi starts the acceleration. The rest of the field still coming off the corner. Looking for the green. The back begins to accelerate. Here we go. The championship is on the line at Laguna Seca as they scream through turn 1, down through turn 2 in the hairpin.
Well, when you saw that big puff of smoke back there, I think somebody accelerated too early, had to lock them up. Everybody trying to squeeze through that turn 2 and turn 3.
Zanardi grabbed the lead coming down into the hairpin, followed by Brian Herta, then Mauricio Guzman, Greg Moore. Christian Fittipaldi is off the course. That's just at turn 3. No contact. He's going to continue on, and he'll chase the field. You know, one thing for Christian Fittipaldi to have a problem like that problem occurs to anyone in the championship fight, and the day is really effectively done for them.
Well, that's true, but he did get back on the track at the back of the field, so he's got no damage. He could come back up through the field some, but he's going to need some breaks.
Down through the corkscrew, Alex Zanardi, followed by Brian Herta, Mauricio Guzman, Greg Moore. Mark Blundell is just behind Moore.
Boy, and Zanardi is just going away at the moment.
So Alex Zanardi picks the lead up on the start. Now here is the battle as Greg Moore begins to work on Guzman. They come off of the final turn on the pit straight now. Coming up the hill, here is Jimmy Vasser, anxious to get around Scott Pruitt.
Oh, they're making a couple of moves in there. You saw him kind of, look at that. Look at Scott. He cut right back in front of Vasser. Vasser's got to be careful. He wants to get by him, but he cannot take a chance, get his nose knocked off or get banged in there. That would play right into Michael Andretti and Al Unser Jr.'s hand.
Well, what Jimmy Vasser is certainly thinking is he is in 7th place, and he needs 6th or better.
And I believe I saw right behind him was Michael Andretti.
Christian Fittipaldi comes into the pits. There's a report from the course marshals that Joe DeFerrin and Al Unser Jr. had contact during that lap. Look at that for Christian Fittipaldi. He's going to have to get that left rear. I didn't see that. Must have gone down and then shredded after the spin.
Well, he could have picked up the puncture. Maybe he got punted a little bit by somebody else and tapped him and pushed him off, and it could have cut that tire.
Back at the front of the field, Alex Zanardi, and he has a tremendous lead. Look at that. Back to 2nd place, Brian Herta. And then that fight, Guzman and Greg Moore. This is the 11th run that Alex Zanardi has led this year, and the 8th race in a row.
But Paul, he is just going away. He is gone. We're on the 2nd lap here, and he's just checked out. He's gone.
Is that maybe part of a strategy? That he becomes the rabbit, tries to pull him away from Vasser?
Well, I don't think so. I think he's running his own race there. I think he's just got the bit between his teeth and he's going, and that shows how well his car is working at the moment.
2nd place, Brian Herta. Guzman and Moore have resolved the conflict for the moment. Blundell is just behind. And then Scott Pruitt and Jimmy Vasser looking for his championship, his home track.
Whoa, who's this? That looks like Paul Tracy.
It is Tracy. Paul Tracy, and that's the area you were talking about.
No, that's the corner before. That's the corner before right there. That's turn 5, right past our booth down here. He's up in here. Oh, he just got sideways there. We didn't see everything. Parker Johnstone right behind him. His day is done.
So Paul Tracy backs it into the wall, and we wait to see what this will do to the course status. Right now, there are yellow flags only in the area. We wait to see if they go full course, Jan Beekes.
The call from Paul Tracy was that he was hit from behind by Parker Johnstone. So that is the report that he radioed back to the crew, and obviously Parker now making his way onto pit road to check for damage.
So Parker Johnstone comes down into the pits. Paul Tracy, 6th DNF of the year.
That's a little bit of a reverse of what happened at Elkhart Lake. Those two guys got tangled up, but the opposite, Parker Johnstone went off.
And, of course, Paul Tracy got a humongous fine for his conduct at Elkhart Lake and put under observation for the remainder of the year. So you see the twin checkered flags come out at the start-finish line. That means that the pace car will come out and we will go to a full course caution. Jan Beekes.
Parker Johnstone came in. He's just about ready to leave, but now at the back of the car, they said stop. Now they're letting him go. The report from the course workers were that something was dragging underneath the car, but when they got it up on the air jacks, they looked underneath, and the crew said, looks okay to me.
Well, and Danny Sullivan just pounded me on the head. I've done it again. They're yellow flags that slow the cars down. We're waiting for the checkered flag. On board, Michael Andretti. A lot of people cheering for, well, all three in the championship. It's a hometown crowd for Jimmy Vasser. He's from San Francisco, about an hour and 20-minute drive to the north of here. Michael Andretti, a two-time winner here, very popular with the crowd. And, of course, Al Unser Jr., popular not just across the states, but around the world.
Can you describe it a little bit more for me? You don't think it's pressure?
Listening to
I think
Mike.
it is. I'm just sliding all over the place. I'm not sure if it's pressure. We'll find out in the next couple laps after it goes green. Off one by one.
I think what he's talking about there, if the car's sliding around, he feels that the pressures, that means the tire pressures, haven't come up to the optimum pressure that they've got them set for, and that can cause the car to slide around. What he said was, I want to give it a couple of more laps to see if I can build them up and see if they come back up to where they want them to be.
They're getting Paul Tracy's disabled car off the circuit. His race and season is done. Alex Zanardi loses what advantage he had gained in a quick move at the front. Speed World's presentation of the Toyota Grand Prix of Monterey, featuring the Bank of America 300K, is brought to you today by Toyota Motorsports. Our minds are always racing. By Firestone, America's tire since 1900. By Budweiser, brewery fresh taste, guaranteed. And by Splitfire. Enter the performance zone with a Splitfire Performance V spark plug. Full course caution, the field is bunched up. We're on the 5th lap. Now, they started 5th, 11th, 13th. Al Unser Jr. making the big move as he comes forward through the field. Jimmy Vasser fighting with Scott Pruitt falls backward, and Michael Andretti stays in position. Now coming back to green flag. And Alex Zanardi leads the field across the line, down through turn 1, that little kink, into turn 2, the hairpin. The advantage that Zanardi had gained earlier, gone away with the full course caution. Remember, too, that they restart in race order.
Yes, but he looks like he's pulling it out again. He looks like he's stretching it out, and that's only after 4 corners.
Alex Zanardi, who has already wrapped up the Rookie of the Year honors, as the rest of the field comes through. Pick out your favorite in there.
But that one rookie back there in that bright blue car, Greg Moore, he'd sure like to have a victory under his belt. Even though he's second to Zanardi, he'd still like to have a victory.
Short ride with Jimmy Vasser as Jan Beekes keeps an eye on Michael Andretti.
Yes, so we wanted to check in further into those radio communications between Michael Andretti's crew about the tire pressures. They said what they're looking for is the tire pressures to come up so the car will get more stability. They don't need more pressure at the front or the rear. They want all 4 to come up. If we get more green flag running, that should happen. So Danny was right on.
While we watch Michael Andretti, Al Unser Jr. is very definitely on the move. You're looking back from Jimmy Vasser's car in 7th place, and there's Al.
that cannot be the view that he wants to see in his rearview mirror. He does not want to see Al, who started the furthest back of all of them. Jimmy started 5th, Al 13th, and now they're running 7th and 8th.
They've given a penalty. It's going to be a drive-through penalty to Richie Hearn. Drive-through meaning he slows down, hits the pit speed, and heads through the pits. That's as a result of jumping the green flag on the restart. Turning onto the pit straight. Al Unser Jr. closes. That's Ribeiro just behind Little Al.
I'll tell you, I talked with Roger Penske last night, and he felt very confident about winning this race. And the only thing that Al Unser Jr. can do, he has to win this race today to really have a shot at that championship.
Well, and it's what we have said several times, that Roger Penske, actually his entire team performs, it seems to me, the best under this kind of pressure. And that's especially true, I think, of Little Al.
Yeah, and we've seen it all season long. He's kept himself in that championship hunt without a victory. Jimmy's had 4 victories. Michael's had 5 victories, and he hasn't had one. He's right there with both of those guys, and look where he is today. He's right behind Jimmy Vasser, obviously pressuring him.
And already Paul Tracy scores a winless season because he is out, Gary Gerald.
Yes, in fact, we'll update a couple of stories. There was concern prior to that last yellow that perhaps Gilles de Ferran and Al Unser Jr. had made contact. We talked with Jim Hall, who, of course, is in his last appearance in IndyCar racing before retirement. He said the 13 was unaware of any problem. Gilles certainly did not indicate there was any contact. Also, a quick check in the Rahal pits for both Brian Herta, Bobby Rahal, and in the Team Target pits for Zanardi and Vasser. Everybody reporting they like the way their cars are working early. No problems at this end of pit road.
Well, Al Unser Jr. working on Jimmy Vasser. That is the fight for 7th place. Zanardi is the leader, followed by Herta, Guzman, Moore, Blundell, Pruitt. Nothing has changed at the front. First pit stops due about the 27th lap. 9 laps are complete here. PJ Jones, he had it looked like a big engine let go during the warm-up this morning. Now he's back into the pit area.
They're trying to push him, of course, up into his pit box. That doesn't look good for his day, and I know that they've got a lot of the folks from Toyota here. It's not exactly what they want to see.
Riding with the leader, Alex Zanardi. Nice clear circuit ahead of him, no traffic to impede the progress as he lays down the laps. He's running about the 71-second range in the last several laps, where it's not nearly what he ran in qualifying. But for carrying a full load of fuel, wanting to race on a hot day, not bad.
And also, you're pacing yourself somewhat. He's trying to run as good a laps as he possibly can. But if he's pulling away from the field, he's not going to push it any harder than he really has to.
So the scenario with the championship is Jimmy Vasser is 1 position from where he would like to be. You see him right there behind Scott Pruitt. There he is. He really needs to be in that position occupied by Scott Pruitt at the moment. But of course, for Jimmy, it can be a waiting game because he really doesn't have to push that position. And the assumption would be that I would guess maybe somebody at the front's going to have a problem.
Well, you'd assume that, but we've had a pretty reliable year when it comes to the mechanical side. But one of the things, don't forget, he's in a different position than Al Unser Jr. He can finish where he is right now and win the championship. Those guys have to win. They have to be in front of him. So he can be a little bit smarter right now as long as Al Jr. stays behind him and Michael.
Exactly. It all depends on where Jimmy Vasser is in that whole championship fight. It's still fairly complex in the mathematics, Gary Gerald.
Yeah, Paul, and very little radio conversation. One conversation that was monitored, however, Vasser told the crew, I don't want to get too racy with some of those guys. That tells me that he is thinking conservatively, trying to protect. After all, it's $1 million at stake.
Well, Gary, you're absolutely right. We saw him move earlier where he went to take a look underneath Scott Pruitt, and Scott came down on him, and Jimmy probably thought, wait a minute, if I get taken out, that opens the door for Michael and Al Jr., and he doesn't want to take that chance, especially with those guys behind him. He needs to finish this race.
Michael Andretti, no change in his position, started 11th, runs 11th right now. Zanardi at the top of the order, and again, beginning to pull away with 11 laps of the 83 complete. The IndyCars have, of course, been resolving other battles this year. The manufacturers' fight between Honda, the Ford Cosworth engine, the Mercedes-Benz, and the Toyota. And that battle has, in fact, been resolved. And here's the way the fight looks. Honda has taken the manufacturers' championship over Ford Cosworth, Mercedes-Benz, and then Toyota. So that championship already in the pocket of everybody at Honda. Now, in the fight for the championship, the PPG Cup, Al Unser Jr. up to 8th place in his fight. Jimmy Vasser sits in 7th. Michael Andretti has not moved. Vasser really needs 6th. But, as Danny Sullivan suggested, as long as everybody else is behind him, no problem.
No, and he's got to keep that thing going. He wants to stay reliable. If Al Jr. and Michael aren't a threat at the moment, he's not under the same pressure. If those guys get in front of him, then he's going to have to get a little bit more racy.
Now let's go pit side, Jan Beekes.
Well, Juan Fangio's day ended much sooner than you had hoped. Juan, what put you out?
We have a problem with the oil pressure, so I suppose something broke. We couldn't fix it. So that was it for this race.
What about the development in the future for Toyota for next year?
Well, I think TRD was really working hard in the full year, and I really appreciate all the job they did because we really catch up from the beginning of the season to the end, and the same thing for All-American racers. So now all these paints will go into a new chassis and into a new engine. So 87, it will be a much more competitive year for us, and 87 and 88, I'm sorry, are going to be the years.
Juan Fangio's out, and to update his teammate, he had electrical problems, and he's back on course, Paul.
Okay, we were wondering about that, so thank you very much for that, Jan. I was going to ask you if we didn't get that far. Fangio out, P.J. Jones stays on the circuit. Zanardi, Herta, Gugelman, Greg Moore, Mark Blundell, Scott Pruitt, and then Jimmy Vasser. Look at this. Gil de Ferran slowing down. Down the hill, Gil de Ferran suddenly off the pace. Pit road is to the left, and that's where he's going.
Look at the smoke. Smoke coming out of the left rear of the car.
I would hate to think that Jim Hall's career as an owner ends with a car going out, but it sure looks like that's going to happen.
Well, it looks like it's a flat tire, for sure.
So, tire, smoke, wheel bearing?
Could be a wheel bearing. They're both going in the back. It didn't look like the smoke from the engine that was coming out of the exhaust or anything. But that doesn't look a good sign. He's definitely going to be in there for a little bit.
Matter of precaution, they refuel the car. They'll have it all serviced and ready to go, should they be able to repair whatever. Here's Michel Jourdain Jr. as the IndyCar officials push his car down the pits, and he obviously has a problem too. Oh, he's okay. Worried me for a minute.
These guys have their engine cover off. Now it's going back on.
Gary, you're right there now.
Yeah, a rear suspension failure is the word we get from Jim Hall, and the day is over. Wheel comes off, de Ferran comes out.
Wow. Now that might have been, didn't they report that there's some contact earlier?
Yes, they did.
Gary, that he had made contact with somebody. I wonder if that's a result of that.
Back on board, Jimmy Vasser. Gary will check into that for us.
One of the things I see here is it seems like Vasser's now putting a little bit more pressure on Scott Pruitt. He would drop back a little bit, but now he seems to have closed on him again.
Jimmy Vasser working on Pruitt. Al Unser Jr. working on Vasser, Jan Beekes.
Yes, P.J. Jones, we told you, was back on course. Well, he's now back on pit road. That first change of the electrical boxes was not successful. Now they're going to try changing some other engine management components. So P.J. Jones losing time again in the pits.
We come back to the battle. We'll try to stay with this as much as we can because this is the fight that matters at the moment. Scott Pruitt trying to hold off Jimmy Vasser. Al Unser Jr. right there. This could resolve the whole championship issue here today. Michael Andretti sits further back in 11th. Vassar needs to be in 6th if he wants to clinch the championship. They come around the slowing car now, Mark Blundell.
Mark Blundell slowing. He's got a problem too because he was running up there in the front.
But that puts Vassar in the position he needs as they come around Blundell. Vassar moves into 6th place.
And look at this.
And
Look at this.
Jr. is now challenging him.
Looks like maybe Vassar had a problem there because look how much he's dropped back from Scott Pruitt. He must have made a mistake down there in the corner, gotten held up when he went around Blundell.
So Al Unser Jr. now working on Jimmy Vassar. Scott Pruitt's gotten a little bit away as they climb the hill again. 170 feet elevation change from the bottom at turn 2 to the top up here at the corkscrew.
It looks to me, just the way they're regrouping on the track right now, that Jimmy got held up a little bit going around, or maybe had a little mistake down there in that hairpin because he dropped back. Now he seems to be pulling it back out. His strategy's got to be, I want to get around Pruitt to get that car between me, but I've got to be very concerned about what Al Unser Jr. is doing. And on top of all that, I can't make a mistake in one of those passes and put myself out of this event.
Down the pit straight. Through turn 1, down to turn 2, the hairpin.
Yeah, I think they're bunching back up there again. I think that was just when they were trying to get by Mark Blundell, who obviously had a serious problem.
Last lap for both Vassar and Unser Jr. Jan Beekes, what's going on with Blundell?
Well, maybe you can see it. There's smoke coming from the cockpit. Mark Blundell called in and said that there was all kinds of smoke coming from somewhere in the cockpit itself. You can see the crew looking down in that area. I'm not sure where that could be coming from. Possibly fire extinguisher, because there's no fluids up there.
I think that's smoke. That could be an electrical if he's got smoke coming out like that.
That's true. Maybe
you'd get a big blast if it was a fire extinguisher. That looks more like a smoke, and mostly that's wiring in there.
I'll see if I can get a whiff of it, Danny, and see if it smells electrical.
Well, Blundell doesn't like it.
Yeah, he obviously thinks it smells. Plus, he doesn't want to get that in his eye. Well, if they think that they've got a problem in there that they can fix, he obviously wants to get back in the hunt. That's why we're also seeing him not jump out of the car.
Yeah, but look, he's been bright enough to take the precaution that they have of making sure that that wheel is out of the way in case he has to hit the eject button.
Well, 2 reasons for that also. That's one of them, but Ziggy wants to be able to get in there. That's his crew chief.
So Mark Blundell into the pits. Alex Zanardi continues his lead. 19 laps are complete of the 83, and the championship is still undecided. Don't forget the Sunday night baseball game of the week, a rematch of last year's American League Championship Series. The Seattle Mariners take on the Cleveland Indians at Jacobs Field in Cleveland, Ohio. Back at Laguna Seca, California, the battle continues between Al Unser Jr. now and Andre Ribeiro. And as we look at the championship, Jimmy Vassar, with Mark Blundell's falling out of the line, moves into the position that he needs. And that would clinch a championship for him if he can simply stay there.
But look what's happening. Jimmy Vassar's close back up on Scott Pruitt. And look at Andre Ribeiro is trying to find a way past little Al, and he's lost a lot of ground to Jimmy Vassar.
You're looking from Bobby Rahal's view of the battle just ahead of him.
And there's a guy, Bobby, who's been on a tear of late. He's had a couple of second-place finishes in the last 2 races.
Alex Zanardi, with the merits of his pole position and where he's running right now, has managed, for the moment at least, to move up into second in the points. He was 4th in the points, but that's a very fluid situation. Harry Gerald?
Jim Hall, Gilles de Ferran, together for the last time. Jim, we start with you, saying goodbye to this sport that you've been such a big part of for more than 40 years. What are the emotions now with the disappointment?
Well, just disappointed in the results of this race. The car was running quite well, and I thought we were in a reasonable position. We probably didn't have a good shot at winning, but we were going to move up in the points, and I thought that was worth doing. And Joe was out there driving it smart, so too bad he had the failure.
What will you do? Will you be close to racing in any sense in the years ahead?
I didn't even.
Close to racing at all in the future years?
I don't know what I'm going to do.
All right. And Gilles de Ferran, was there contact with Al Unser Jr. at some point before you came out?
Yeah, it's right at the first turn, you know, just a little territorial dispute, nothing major, and his left rear touched my my right front, but everything was fine. I don't think Al or I had a problem after that.
He goes to Walker Racing next season. Thank you.
How gentlemanly, a territorial dispute.
I like that term. I've never heard that, but I don't know if
that, by the way, applies to most wars as well. So there it is with 61 laps to go. The lineup with Zanardi out in front and well out in front, 3.2 seconds over Brian Herta with the full course caution early on as we reach this point in the race. It will probably go 8 or 9 laps more before we see the first pit stops. The target team of Chip Ganassi is already reporting that they're able to go just a little deeper in the race before they start.
what I'm seeing here too with Al Unser Jr. is that obviously his car was working better on full tanks, and as the fuel load is getting lighter, his car's not handling quite a bit. I've seen him getting sideways out of a lot of the corners. It's obviously going a little bit loose, and I think that's why he's dropping back. Look at that gap. You can see it there to the cars in front. Bobby Rahal taking a look at both of them. He obviously wants to move up as well.
Ribeiro and Rahal working on little Al, Jan.
Two updates from the pits. First of all, Mark Blundell still has his helmet on, but he's got out of the car. That's because, Danny, you were right on. It was the wiring harness that was behind the dash. That's where the smoke was coming from. Mark Blundell hoping to get back in. He's starting to take the gloves off. Maybe they've changed their mind. But why don't I quickly update you on Al Unser Jr. We thought maybe he was slowing. The only report he's had to Penske is that there's no problem with the car. The track is just getting slick.
Oh, keep an eye on little Al. I'll tell you what. With Penske support, I wouldn't even want him in the field.
Yeah, but obviously, if the track is getting slick, his car's not handling that slick condition quite as well as he'd like to, because the car in front, look at him, he's diving into the pits. It seems like a little bit early, doesn't it?
That would be. Al Unser Jr. peels off on the pit road. There's that brand new pit area. They spent a lot of money improving this track, and the improvements are terrific as Al Unser Jr. comes down the pit road. This is at the 24th lap, Jan Vikas.
He brings it to a stop, and of course, if the track was getting slick, this is a little bit of Penske strategy. They can come in here, they can get some fresh tires, and they can make some tire pressure adjustments if they need to. All the service is done, 12.21 seconds for Al Jr.
Fantastic stop. Al Unser Jr. comes in a bit early, lap 24. Of course, you could pace that first stop, can't you? Does it get him clear? What does it do for him?
Well, he used that same strategy at Mid-Ohio to try and jump himself up, because what happens now, he moves back in the traffic. Everybody's spread out a little bit. But when they all start making the stops, guess who moves right back up to the front? And he's hoping to gain some spots right there.
Being careful on those fresh tires as he comes out alongside Max Pappas. By the way, that team and sponsor have put together a deal to carry them for several more years as well, with Max Pappas as the primary driver. They may even have a second car, different sponsorship, and of course, a different driver. Pappas is 19th, so Unser Jr. has come out right back in the back of the field, but as Danny's already suggested, everyone else now has the pit.
If he can pick up the pace on those new tires, and his car was obviously working very well on full tanks before, he can pick up some spots. Everybody goes into the pits. They have a little bit of a slow pit stop. He had a very fast pit stop, 12 seconds, as Jean said. And boom, guess what? He may have picked up 2 more spots.
So now we look for Michael Andretti, currently running 9th with those 2 removals of position. First Blundell coming out of the race, and then Al Unser Jr. making his pit stop. That's brought Michael forward 2 positions as we're on the 26th lap now, and the indication is that Michael will come into the pits coming down the hill. We'll just listen to the radio now.
Watch your speed, watch your speed. It's clear in, clear in. Watch your speed. We're going prime. Clear in, watch your speed here.
the wing. Okay.
Throw your meter. Keep your revs up. Tires are done. Smooth throttle, smooth throttle. Smooth throttle, smooth. Way to go, nice stuff, Mike.
Oh, he's not kidding. That was a nice job, especially when you consider that that was Al Unser Jr. just came by. And here comes one of the two Walker cars. Hard to tell from the rear because they're both identically to Scott Goodyear or Robbie Gordon. But the point I wanted to make was Michael has a pit all the way at the top of the hill, so he was on a grade when he pulled out there, making it a little bit harder.
And I would imagine that was part of what they said.
The leader is straight away behind you.
I would imagine that that's why he said to be smooth on that throttle so that it got away and keep the revs up. So if he got the revs down, if he didn't take a chance of stalling it on that hill. Isn't it interesting, too, that Penske and Newman Haas both stopped earlier than everybody else?
Interesting that there are teams that have scored victories here. And take a look at this. Is a new camera available to us. You like that for a view? How you like to be that cameraman?
No, thanks. Notice how quickly that camera went up?
That's on the side. Robbie Gordon with that great camera that's mounted on the outside of the car. Here is the leader, Gary.
Alex Zanardi for his first service of the day. They talked about taking a half turn of wing out. There's the adjustment on the left side and the right side, waiting for fueling to... Oh, they're on top of the hose right rear. He spins off. I don't know if this will be a penalty or not. 13.6 seconds, but he came down. He didn't run over it. They yanked it back, but he came down on a hose from the air gun in the right rear.
Exactly as you called it, Gary Gerald. When they dropped the car, the hose was there just under the edge of the tire, and they caught it. Now the field comes by as Alex Zanardi comes out. He almost came in right behind his teammate Jimmy Vasser, but he falls in behind Ribeiro.
But isn't it interesting? Ribeiro is now closed up on Jimmy Vasser with little Al gone.
That, of course, gives the lead of the race over to Brian Herta with Gugelman to second. We'll go back and look at that stop. I would say no penalty would be my guess, but of course I'm not the official of the race. Wally Dallenbach, the chief steward here. See the hose there looking to the right rear tire.
So he moves it, throws the gun, but the hose doesn't go back. Now he realizes he reached down at the same time the jack man dropped it. See the official pointing to the hose. See, he's pointing to the hose. I don't know if that, I'm with Gary. I don't know if that's a penalty or not, because he didn't actually drive over it, and they did pull it out as he sort of rolled away.
Good news. Race control says no penalty, Gary.
Brian Herta overshot his mark, but they barely got it in. 14.6 seconds. But, I mean, he laid down skid marks as he slid nearly 10 yards into pit position, and they were still able to get the service done. Amazing.
And with Brian Herta coming into the pits, Jimmy Vasser assumes the lead of the race. Not yet stopped. Vasser followed by Ribeiro. Herta came out in third place. May have lost a little room, though, to Zanardi as they came down the hill. The measurement at the line is right at the pit exit, so a car coming up the hill at speed certainly has the momentum to get past somebody clocked out in the pits. Down through the corkscrew.
What a ride.
Is that as much of a roller coaster as it looks?
It's a great ride, because when you go off of that top, you don't see anything for a millisecond. You're looking out kind of in space. Jimmy Vasser coming into the pits. Was it a very tight corner?
Gets the speed under control. Gary Gerald's right there.
Not expecting any changes. Beautifully controlled as he comes in. Now this is where the pressure affects every member of the team. One little mistake could knock them out of $1 million payoff. Revs come up. Oh, still waiting for fueling. We're at 15 seconds. It's not a good stop. 16.5 seconds. It was a little longer than they wanted, but it was successfully executed.
And look who got out in front of him, the guy that was chasing him, Andre Ribeiro.
Ribeiro gets out ahead of him. Jimmy Vasser coming up the hill. with a stop that seemed to be slowed by the refuel and took them 16 seconds. Back at Laguna Seca Raceway with most of the stops complete. The battle is back at the front of the field. Jimmy Vasser is exactly where he needs to be to take his first championship, in 4th place right now. Brian Herta is chasing Alex Zanardi for the lead. Parker Johnstone spent a little longer out on the track, moved up to 3rd place, but now has come into the pits. And Andre Ribeiro just spun, and this is the 2nd spin. He's staying out. Here's the situation with Andre.
This is where he beat Vasser out of the pits, and he went out there just trying to go too fast to stay in front of him. New tire, slid it off.
Greg Moore, Al Unser Jr. And as we continue to keep tracking that championship for you, there's Greg Moore. Well, at the moment in the championship, it is Jimmy Vasser in exactly the position he needs to take the championship on his home track. He would have 154. Zanardi, with a big lead, would come up into 2nd place in the points. We're talking big money on the payout as well.
But look at that right there, Paul, in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. 131, 130, 130. A little bit of moving around, that could change a lot. If these guys dropped one position or picked up one.
As we continue to look at the battle for the PPG Cup, we go back up to the front of the field. We look backwards from Alex Zanardi. Brian Herta. Herta yet to score a win. But an extremely skillful driver will stay with Ray Hall. And the Ray Hall team, Dave Letterman, by the way, is here at the track this weekend, who is a partner in there with Bobby Rahal. They have announced, though, that the power plant will change. They're going to go over to Fort Cosworth for the next several years.
Paul, either Brian Herta has gotten faster or Alex Zanardi slowed some since that fuel stop, because he's staying right with him. Before, it wasn't hard for Zanardi to pull away.
Zanardi, Herta, Vasser, Gugelman, Pruitt. There's your top 5. And you're right, Herta's right there with him. Laps are complete for Alex Zanardi as Brian Herta continues his chase. For the moment, it has broken off as the run continues at Laguna. Don't forget our coverage of Major League Soccer, Los Angeles versus New York and New Jersey from the Meadowlands. Los Angeles Galaxy started the season as the league's only undefeated team, but now they're in 2nd place in the Western Conference. Coverage tonight. Back, Laguna Seca. Greg Moore down that hill. Jimmy Vasser, of course, moved up. In 3rd place now. The battle is still at the front. Alex Zanardi, Brian Herta, they're 1st and 2nd, with Jimmy Vasser about 25, 26 seconds back from this battle. And already the leaders of the race have begun moving up through slower traffic. Here's the way that they went into the pits and how they came out. With Vasser, with that stop, gets him out, well, with that stop and some retirement.
Yeah, and he didn't have that good of a stop. Yeah. He did it in 16 seconds compared to, say, Alex or Jr., who did it in 12.
So that, in fact, is not really reading the pit stop. That's reading the retirements.
That's right. And also we saw Andre Ribeiro, who got out in front of him, then slide off the track and went wide, and he picked up one of the spots there.
In fact,
he actually lost, and then, as you say, he spun again.
In fact, yeah, got off twice. So Greg Moore here working on 4th place. Mauricio Gugelman climbing up the hill. Top of the corkscrew.
talked to Greg right beforehand. He felt that his car was good.
Let's go to the pits and Gary.
Paul, recapping now on the pit stop for Jimmy Vasser, we were wondering about if there was any problem with the refueling because it was a 16.5-second stop, which is maybe 3 or 4 seconds longer than optimum. They were being very precise, very careful, wanted to make sure that they got a full load of fuel on. They say there was no problem there. Paul?
Well, the fight continues as Greg Moore comes down the hill trying to move inside Guzman. He does so in the hairpin, but then he loses it. Moore loses it. He's off the track, no contact with anybody. It was a valiant try, but it was very costly.
That is such a tricky spot there. If you get out a little bit wide, it's always dirty. It's a very inside of the track there. It's got good grip, but if you run wide there at all, it's very, very slippery, and that's what happened to him. Got a little sideways. Great move here. He goes down the inside, but Big Mo takes him in deep and checks him up a little more. Has to turn it to get down in there. He just was loose when he went in.
Boy, he really lost it twice, caught it once, and then spun it completely.
Good try. I mean, he's racing. He wants to get up there to the front.
No question about that. Al Unser Jr., 7th coming forward in the field. Must-win situation for him today. Further update now. There are the stats on little Al. And further update on the championship situation and moving up the pits to Jan.
Yes, first of all, let's start with Al Unser Jr. The reason that Roger Penske wanted to have him in early was because they didn't want to make changes necessarily. They knew they could do a faster pit stop if they had to take on less fuel trying to get track position. Now, as far as Michael Andretti, when he came in for his pit stop, one thing that we missed, he actually went to the primary Goodyear tire, which is a harder tire. So when we heard him on the radio talking about the car squirming, he obviously decided that the option tire was too soft and that was causing it.
So, Jan, you're saying that the Penske stop was really a time stop? As soon as the tires were done, they were going to pull? What were they doing?
Well, it was a time stop, Paul, but they did take all the fuel. They feel that if they came in a lap early, they wouldn't have to take on as much. So they filled it up, but it took less time.
All right, the Jimmy Vasser story, Gary Gerald.
One further update regarding Vasser. We've had a radio conversation between team manager Tom Anderson and Vasser indicating that the crew wants him to save just a little bit of fuel. Now, that's the first time that we've heard fuel economy being mentioned here this afternoon. For those who don't follow this series, remember, you get 1.8 gallons per mile, and you've got to be able to hit that all through the course of the race, or you get to the end and you don't have enough fuel to get there. So fuel economy being talked about in the target camp for Vasser. Not a critical problem. They want him to save just a little bit.
Well, I think part of that strategy, Gary, would be that he's way behind the leaders right now, and he's got a good gap on the cars behind him. So let's conserve some fuel because we have a full course yellow, and you want to go racing at the end, and you've got to turn it up to 100%. You want to have all the fuel you can.
At the front, it's the teammate to this car, Alex Zanardi, is still being worked on by Brian Herta, but Jimmy Vasser, sitting in third, is exactly where he wants to be for a championship. Each pole sitter this year was given a key to start a brand new Mercedes-Benz E420. Then they all got in the car and gave it a try. Paul Tracy slides in. Now, of course, Andre Ribeiro gave it a shot. Alex Zanardi had plenty of tries, but it was Jimmy Vasser that ended up winning a brand new Mercedes and the pole award. Max Pappas parks his Toyota-powered machine by the edge of the race course and climbs out. Another one.
Oh, look at that. Look at the
fight for the lead, though, as Brian Herta has just grabbed the lead. Brian Herta grabbed the lead coming down into turn 2. So now Alex Zanardi for the first time relinquishes the lead of the race on the 42nd lap. And Brian Herta picks up the lead in actual competition on the circuit. This is the first race that Herta has led since Phoenix in '95. And how did he get there?
This is on the front straightaway. This is one of the primary spots. Look, he just goes down on the inside. clean pass. Actually, Alex Zanardi got a little smoke coming off that left front. He just must have gotten a great hole shot out of that turn 11, pulled him up the straightaway, had the run on him.
Well, Zanardi was sitting out behind Coyne, but that was a beautiful pass for the lead.
Yeah, but Roberto Moreno didn't cause any of that. That was just up the straightaway. And look at this, Brian Herta is pulling away from him. And he's passed Roberto Moreno as well.
So a fantastic change of events here as the lead goes over to Brian Herta looking for his first IndyCar win.
And what does that do to the points that we did? Because we had Alex Zanardi, of course, having that win.
Well,
for the second spot.
Yeah, the real key being the championship right now.
Well, not Chip Ganassi.
Everybody's running with their pencils right now, calculating, going to figure it out. Gary Gerald?
Quick word on the Alex Zanardi camp. We've just been informed that they believe Alex has a blistered front tire. Don't know if it's right or left. Don't know how long they're going to try to live with it. But that could be why Herta was able to make that pass so easily as it appeared.
Well, now the calculations are done. That little pass drops Zanardi back into 4th place in the points from second.
See that tire? Look at that left front. You can see it right there. See how it's all grained right there? He's got a bad left front tire, but they're probably trying to get inside the window. But what this also tells me is that their car is set up that way. Remember, he took that turn of wing out. He took that turn of...
I wouldn't imagine they could keep going with that tire looking like that.
Well, they're not going to go to where it's a dangerous point, but that's something the driver's got to make the call on. It doesn't look terrible, but it certainly doesn't look good. But what they're probably trying to do is get inside the window so they don't have to make 3 stops.
You want to know how critical every little move is in this race? That pass, if he stays in that position in the points for Zanardi, it cost him $300,000. Gary Gerald?
And Danny Sullivan, you're right on target, trying to get within that window. We are told that that window, meaning a final stop that would carry them to the checkered flag, is just now 9 or 10 laps away. So he's going to have to soldier around here. He's got a comfortable margin, we're told, over the next challenger, which I think is his teammate Vassar. So for the moment, they'll keep him on the circuit.
Well, it was obvious that somebody nipped the edge of the course if they didn't get off completely. But whoever they are, back on. Here's the update. Jimmy Vassar still, as long as he stays there and stays ahead of Michael and Al, this day is his.
His big threat is if Michael or Al get up in front of him. Almost no matter what position that he stays in, as long as he's in front of those guys, they can't beat him.
There was a scenario at the start of the day. It all pivots off of Jimmy Vassar. If he doesn't get the 6th or better, then what Michael and Little Al both need to do, indicated there. Michael 3rd or better, Al Unser Jr. a must-win. But it all revolves around Vassar, and as long as he stays up here, it does not matter at all. Former leader Alex Zanardi, now in 2nd place, nursing a left front that has so much problem with it that it's clearly visible to everybody here in the circuit, which means people all the way up the top of the hill. That's one of the great things about this track. You throw out a blanket about anywhere here and see most of the circuit.
But also some of the people that are watching are those Firestone engineers who are taking a look at that, and they'll make the call if they think it's going to be a dangerous situation as well as the team.
Okay, bringing that point up. Same tires over on Vassar's car, something else that they're going to have to think about. I don't know if the compounds are the same, but it certainly gives them pause. A disappointed Michael Andretti just radioed, guys, I really screwed up. Look at the left front.
And look at that tire, it's going down, and it looks like the suspension might even be damaged there. He tried to make some kind of a maneuver. We didn't catch it all. Going into the hairpin before the pit. Okay, here we're on board with him. Comes down here, he goes. He's got a shot here, going on the inside here. He's gonna go in there. Oh, he locks it up. Oh, and he tapped, as he spun, he tapped the car right there.
And Jimmy Vassar just ran off at turn 4, coming through 5 now.
Look at the dirt. Look at the dirt on the inside of the tires. You can tell he's been off on that left side.
Oh, he cannot afford that. Look at Gugelmin right behind him, closing down. He did not lose position. But now the question is the ailing rubber on Zanardi's car now affecting Vassar's car? Let's keep it and watch as he comes down the hill to make sure that everything appears good. Back end came a little loose as he came down through 10.
Boy, he'll be beating up on himself right now if that was a driver error. He'll be going, come on, Jimmy. This championship is there for you. You just got to hang in there. That will be how he'll be talking to himself.
Michael Andretti trying to limp back to the
left
pit.
front suspension span. Let's take a look at it.
Now you can see it quite clearly. A bend there in the left front. Gugelmin was closing on Vassar as they came through turn 11.
Okay, it's just a track rod. Just a track rod.
Now what they're talking about that arm there. Watch, the crew will push it down, try and straighten the steering arm. But they need to go a little bit more, I would say.
Like,
oh, they think that's it.
35 laps left, 35 laps left.
Well, he was only here about 16 seconds. It looks like the front suspension is not pointing the way they would like, but Michael is still running.
Yeah, but you can see his hands. That thing's bent quite a bit, Jan. But I think what they're saying is get back out there, see if it's okay, and you can just hold on, because they still want to maintain their position in the championship.
Allenser Jr., you probably saw him in a glimpse on the shot there, just fell back 2 spots. And Pruitt and Moore got forward, but here comes the Brahma car, and that, of course, is Raul Boesel. So does Allenser Jr. have a problem? That question may be answered here very quickly.
See, what I'm seeing, Paul, is that fuel load lightens again. Allenser Jr. seems to lose ground. I'm not so sure his car is handling the way he wants it on a light load of fuel.
Well, Jr. was just ahead of that contact between Ray Hall and Michael. Here comes Boesel. He will get alongside him in 1 and no doubt get past him in 2. And Magnussen comes up behind Al now. Identical cars, both Penske's. None of them with a win yet this season. Magnussen around. Al's definitely in trouble.
He's got a problem. For him to be passed at that particular spot for a position is not good.
So a change again in the championship with Michael Andretti, one of the contenders, getting in contact down in turn 2, the hairpin. And limps his way into the pits, still has damage on the car, a bent left front steering arm. Then Allenser Jr., without explanation, suddenly slows. One car off the track, gets right back on. The rest of the field comes around. Jan Beekes.
As far as Allenser Jr. is concerned, it appears that the tires are going off. So right now the Penske crew is trying to decide what to do. Do they bring him in now? They're calculating very closely to figure out if they're anywhere near the fuel window. But there's no mechanical problem with the car. It's just the tires are getting overheated. Let's go to Gary.
Boy, look at those 2 guys. I'm sorry, they were sliding in and out there. Gary?
From the target camp where they have Firestone tires, you know about the blister on the left front for Alex Zanardi. They think they'll be within that window to go the distance at lap 53. We're expecting him in. We talked with Al Spire, director of racing for Firestone. He said, we don't know what caused that blister. It's a new tire. He may have locked it up and developed a lot of heat at that spot. We're recommending that they drop the tire pressure slightly. We don't think it's a critical problem. They will stay, we believe, on the option tire when they replace it. Coming up here for Zanardi.
Well, Zanardi's driving style is a very free and loose style, throwing the car constantly, so that could, of course, be one of the explanations. As Allenser Jr. still limping.
He's trying to get inside that window as well. He's trying to make sure he gets there so they can only make one more stop.
Well, he's fallen all the way back to 11th place at the front of the field. Brian Herta, then Zanardi, then Jimmy Vassar in the championship slot, followed by Gugelmin, Pruitt, Moore, Ray Hall, and Boesel. Speed World's coverage of the Toyota Grand Prix of Monterey, featuring the Bank of America 300K, is being brought to you today by Miller Genuine Draft. Stay cool. By Daytona USA, the ultimate motorsports attraction. And by Mobile Motor Oil. At Mobile, we've been changing oil for over 125 years. We're back in Laguna Seca, and we're looking at turn 2. We just had a very, very big crash. It is Stefan Johansson, and he climbs up and out of the car. He came down the hill, and it looked like he had damage already.
It looks like he's missing his rear wing. See, he just spun down there. He's got no rear wing on the... No, it's collapsed. The wing had collapsed. It had fallen down, was dragging on the ground. He had no downforce. That's what caused him to spin the minute he went on the back brakes. This is not the way he wanted to end the season, and today's his 40th birthday, I believe. That's not a present he wanted to get.
And he and his owner, Tony Bentonhausen, are parting ways. It's a friendly situation. Jan, not sure what he's going to do next year. He's going to be part of an Indy Lights team, but the wing it's folded under the back end.
You can see it's not there, but if you look down, see it's dragging right there at the back of the car. Goes in there, hits the gravel. Boy, I tell you what.
Surprised, too, only a single line of tires at that point on the wall. A bit of a gravel pit ahead of them. Gary Gerald?
All of the leaders have come in for service with the exception of Jimmy Vasser. Zanardi got the change of rubber all the way around. We could see the problem with the left front. Brian Herta was in. It was 14.9 and out for Zanardi. Jimmy Vasser is now in getting his service that should carry him the rest of the distance. We're watching Vasser from our vantage point. Revs way up and he's rolling. It looks like the ball has stopped. He's on the rev limiter all the way down pit road. I mean, big time on the rev limiter.
Well, that's the speed control, Gary. He holds that button down, but if he keeps his throttle on it, it just goes into that speed control device.
By the way, while we're talking about that and watching Jimmy Vasser last week, remember he had a speed violation during the pits that before the weekend started, he said might have cost him the championship. Danny, you researched what they did.
Right, they had a button that they pushed that they hold down for 1 second. It puts a yellow light on and it says the speed control device is in play. But what happened is they had so many buttons in there, they were trying to shorten that a little bit. So they also put where he put his 100% fuel mixture in there and the light as well. So he thought his speed control device was on and it actually was not. When he realized that he was going over the speed limit, it was too late. They had already nabbed him.
Changed it at the last minute. Not good for a driver who's accustomed to other things. There is the nose from Stefan Johansson's car. That tells you something about energy-absorbing materials and how they protect the driver and the great job that the engineers do on these machines to keep the drivers safe.
And also what a great job that tire wall did in front of that concrete, because you wouldn't want to hit that as hard. But I tell you, the safety on these cars now is fantastic. And look there's Brian Herta, and right behind him is Al Unser Jr.
Yeah, we were tracking Al, though. He was due in just before the yellow came out, Jan.
Yes, Paul. In fact, what happened was he came in under green. They serviced the car and then they went to full course yellow. So he's been caught by the pace car. He's shown, at least at the moment, on the scoring monitor as 1 lap down. His stop was 14.7 seconds. They put 4 tires on. They made no changes. Their only complaints were, as we talked about before, the tires getting too hot and the track getting greasy. Now to update Michael Andretti. His last radio communication was that the car is undrivable. So when we saw them try to fix the front suspension, at the moment, that is not helping him. And as Danny alluded to, that thing is just not straight enough for him to go to the front.
Yeah, but Jan, we're going to have a lengthy yellow. They're actually going to bring out one of the jet machines and help get some of the dust off the track. Do you think that's something they'd give a try to?
Well, the interesting thing is they did not even act like they were going to bring Michael in. I guess they feel as though they've done everything they can do short of changing the actual steering arm itself. Maybe they feel they can't change it in less than a lap. We'll check in further, but so far the crew has made no indication they're going to bring him in under this yellow.
That little Al's down in 11th place, though, on the course right now. As we watch Stefan Johansson walk away, he was right behind Brian Herta, who is the leader on the track. So much racing this weekend around the world. The IndyCars, Formula One, Winston Cup, the Busch, everything going on this weekend. You want to know what happened. RPM tonight is the place to be. You know, not far from here on the Monterey Peninsula is the inn at Spanish Bay, and many of the drivers, like Bobby Rahal, checked out the links there at Pebble Beach, those beautiful courses. Right next to the rolling Pacific Ocean. Spanish Bay, I'll tell you what, it's great. Well, now, full course yellow, there's Bobby Rahal. He's driving a little better here than I think he was driving on the course, though he is a most accomplished golfer. After 55 of the 83 laps, there is the lineup. Under the full course caution for Stefan Johansson, but he was walking back, heading, in fact, back for the pits after ending his drive of the day, his drive with Tony Bettenhausen, and no indication what Tony will be doing for a driver or for a team for next year. Neither an indication from Stefan Johansson, who is going to be involved in an Indy Lights team, though as an owner, not as a driver. But there is a skilled young man. Can we say young? 40? Yeah, that's young. You bet it's young. 40 years old today. Here are the points as we look at them and continue to track at the moment. Jimmy Vasser, 156. Andretti comes up to second. Then Zanardi. Jan Bikas?
Stefan Johansson has made his way here to the top of the pits. I know that's not how you wanted to end your IndyCar season. What happened?
I honestly don't know. It came over the hill and something just ceased in the back end. Turned me sideways before I even got on the brakes, and next thing I knew, I was just a passenger till I hit the wall.
Now, do you have any idea what your plans will be? You've talked about ownership of Indy Lights, but what about driving?
I'm talking to a number of teams right now, and hopefully I will have my plans finalized within the next month or so.
Well, thankfully, he's okay. Let's go to Gary.
We've talked so much, Jan, about the pressure that this Target team and Jimmy Vasser and everyone has been under in the last few weeks of this season. Well, here's an indication that maybe the pressure is being lessened, because Jimmy Vasser, as he exited in the last pit stop, I had to verify this with the crew, but I thought I saw him make a sign, and he did one of these, the Hawaiian shaka. He was waving to them, saying, hang loose, everything's cool. You got to love the guy's style.
Jimmy Vasser, looking for a championship, is where he needs to be if he wants to score it, and Brian Herta may be looking at his first victory. One of the other things we've been tracking throughout this IndyCar season is Rookie of the Year, the great Canadian Greg Moore, and of course, now we know he's fabulous, Alex Zanardi. And calculations completed last week gave Alex Zanardi the IndyCar Rookie of the Year honors and a big chunk of money. And that comes, by the way, out of the memorial to Jim Truman, one of the great owners in this sport who passed away 10 years ago. $50,000 goes to Alex Zanardi for being the Rookie of the Year. Now he'd like to get around that car in front of him, Brian Herta. We're still under the full course caution here. And they are putting the cars back in race order and ready to go back green, hopefully very shortly. Let's go to Jan.
As long as we're under yellow, let's talk to Max Pappas. What put you out, Max?
Actually, we had an engine problem. We're running no problem, under control. We were just going towards the end of the race and to start to go to push very hard. But, something very strange, because no advice and just the engine blew up. But, we are in a good direction for next year. This will not stop us, and we are doing a good job.
Now you signed. How excited are you for next year in this program?
Definitely Toyota is going to be very strong, like MCI and the Sierra Wells team. So, really look great. I am very pleased to be part of this team, and I'm sure Max Pappas will take a lot of satisfaction, and Mad Max will be over here.
All right, Mad Max, let's get back up to Paul.
Yeah, I'm really glad he did that, because a lot of people have been saying, no, that's Max Papi. And I asked him, I said, wait a minute, you told me to call you Pappas. He said, yeah, here's the way it is. If I'm in Europe and I'm being a European, then it's going to be Maximilian Papi. But if I'm in an American series, I'm going to be Mad Max Pappas. Cool? All right.
Sounds good to me.
So at Laguna Seca, we are ready to go back green. Don't forget, the President's Cup preview here on ESPN. Thursday, 5:30 in the East, and then, of course, the match itself, the President's Cup. Match play competition featuring 12 players from the United States against 12 players from around the world. The field falling back into race order behind the PPG pace car. PPG, by the way, extending their ongoing agreement that has lasted right from the very first years of INDYCAR. And as we look at Brian Herta at the front of the field, 58 laps of the 83 complete, Gary Gerald.
One update on the Alex Zanardi story this day, Paul. You were talking about him winning the $50,000 prize as Rookie of the Year. Before he got that blistered tire and was leading the race today, he also established a new record for laps led by a rookie in an IndyCar season at 603. And the record that he broke, remember Nigel Mansell's success back in 1993? Jan?
Michael Andretti got waved by the pace car, so he had a chance to get his car up to speed. He radioed to the pits and said, I can barely hold the car in a straight line coming up the straightaway. But they said, Michael, there's nothing we can do. We've bent that arm back as close as we can get it. It's not worth coming in to try and change it. So Michael Andretti is definitely going to have a handful.
Now the question would be, is it worth staying out for? Michael Andretti will come back to the green in 17th place. And the green should come out as they come to the bottom of the hill. There is the leader of the race, Brian Herta, and then the two teammates, Zanardi, Vassar. Well, the last thing they could afford is to get together right now.
Well, I think we're in Jimmy's position right now. He's going to be pretty cautious. The opportunity presents himself. He'll want to have a go at it. But I don't think he's going to throw that away with where Allenser Jr. and Michael are.
Coming back onto the pit straight as the green flag flies, and Brian Herta anticipates it well. Scott Pruitt trying to move down inside Guzman for a pass. He gets around him. Pruitt takes Guzman. Zanardi and Vassar, no contest with one another. They're not stupid. They're going to stay right together there. Greg Moore now closing up on Guzman. Scott Pruitt, the man on the move. Brian Herta leading them for turn 5.
See everybody squirming there? That's because they don't have the tire temperature up exactly where they want it.
Ray Hall right behind Moore. There is Herta with Alex Zanardi now on the charge. Fight is at the front of the field, climbing the hill. Up toward the top of the corkscrew. And now that swing down the hill. Now in the qualifying battle, Brian Herta had the provisional pole through all of the qualifying right down to the very last lap. It was taken away from him by Alex Zanardi. There are those two combatants together on the circuit. Herta leads it. Scott Pruitt closing on Jimmy Vassar. Just sitting with the onboard. Watch him come up to gears. As we move now, we'll move back to Michael Andretti. You saw how the car is when it's working perfect. Michael's still holding on to 17th. Davy Jones is behind him. His teammate Christian Fittipaldi ahead of him.
Whoa, that was a little close.
I think it was Goodyear. It was Goodyear. Just got a glimpse of that silver helmet.
Well, the last thing Mike wanted to see was him shoot back across the track. And that was the last thing that Goodyear wanted to happen, too. He just wanted to spin it over there and stop. look at that kick back on his hands when he went through that corner. Just a kick back in that wheel.
Corner station called that as car 5. That would make Gordon slid off in front of Michael. I'm going to wait. You really can't debate corner stations when you think about it, because they are right there. Volunteers from the San Francisco region of the SCCA, and some other regions contributing as well, but primarily San Francisco. By the way, Robbie Gordon's now been reported sliding off the course a second time. So apparently a problem with Robbie Gordon as Brian Herta holds off Alex Zanardi, and Jimmy Vasser is still in position for the championship. Mauricio Guzman being challenged by Greg Moore. Guzman is 5th. Gore's been right down behind him most of the way. Brian Herta is still the leader. Nothing has changed at the front. Jimmy Vasser still exactly where he wants to be as Michael Andretti and Al Unser Jr. fall further and further back and away from a chance at a championship. There's the way the points would end up. Andretti in 2nd. We mentioned that before. He eclipsed Zanardi, but he still is in a very precarious position. And of course, Al Unser Jr. sitting there with 127 against Zanardi as well.
We're on board with Jimmy Vasser. He's right behind his teammate. Closing on him. Greg Moore looks like he's pulling away a little bit from those two. And Jimmy Vasser's pulled out some on Scott Pruitt. You know what's interesting? We were showing Greg Moore there just a moment ago, who's back up into 6th spot right behind Big Mo. Remember, he tried to pass Big Mo a while ago and spun off, and he's come all the way back up and caught him again.
Evenly spaced up the hill, Herta, Zanardi, Vasser, and Pruitt, Jan Beekes.
Guzman, the reason that Guzman is dropping back into the clutches of Moore is because the tires are going off. A very similar situation to what we heard from some of the other Goodyear runners like Al Unser Jr. But that doesn't explain necessarily how well Brian Herta is running with the same kind of rubber.
Well, Jan, as you know, tires going off, that usually has a little to do with the balance of the car as well, because look at Brian Herta. He's pulling away from those two guys. He's doing well. I think that means that they've just got their setup a little bit off, and they're using up the tires more.
And Brian Herta leads through the hairpin, Gary.
And possibly, Paul and Danny, exactly what's happened here is that Herta has just been cleared by his crew to go up on the fuel. That means they can richen it up, get maximum use out of that power plant. So no fuel concerns at this point. They're good to go the distance, and they've given him the green light to just turn it on and charge.
And Gary, the best guess would be that that's true for everybody.
Exactly. We heard that from Scott Pruitt's camp just a short time ago. They had plenty of fuel. They went to full rich. They were hoping that they could make a run on the Ganassi cars, but it looks like those top 4 are pretty evenly spaced right now.
Well, the way the day is going at the moment, we may see some brand new names. Brian Herta scoring his first win in the IndyCars, and Jimmy Vasser taking the PPG Cup for the first time in his racing career. We're back at Laguna Seca Raceway, and the battle for the championship belongs to Vasser at the moment. The race itself belongs to Brian Herta as Raul Boisel suddenly slows off of the final corner, slows coming up the hill in the pit straight. He was doing so well, too. He was running in the bottom half of the top 10 at carving his way through the field, and then suddenly just pulls off to the right side of the course as they started up the hill. This will end his ride, of course, with Team Green, Barry Green's team. No indication of what happens then next year. Robbie Gordon was originally supposed to go to that team, but now he's decided he's going to go over and take Kyle Petty's ride in the Winston Cup Championship with Felix Sabatis, and so Green has nobody. Mary Gerald?
interested onlooker down here in the Rahal Herta camp, David Letterman. Letterman making, I believe, his second appearance this season at an IndyCar event. Of course, is involved in ownership with Bobby Rahal with this team. And while Letterman watches intently on a monitor here and charts the progress of both of his drivers, he is the one personality at this end. Joe Montana, who had been here Friday and Saturday next door in the target pits, had a commitment that wouldn't allow him to be here today. And Montana said, man, it is killing me because we got a chance to kill a championship off. But no Montana. Dave Letterman's here, however, and he's cheering on Hertamania.
Originally from Indianapolis, Indiana, a massive race fan. Boisel off the edge of the course now, wasn't even able to make it up the hill, Jan.
That's right, Paul, because he had another engine problem. Remember, just last week in Vancouver, they had engine difficulties as well. So Team Green, boy, it's been a tough season for Barry and his brother down here.
Oh, don't let your foot off the brakes. Last time that Bobby Rahal, as we ride with him, won a race as a car owner, 66 races ago, Nazareth in 1992. 18 of the drivers that started today's race don't have 66 starts. Team Green, I want to put this to rest right now because we know that Team Green's looking for an American driver with a good portfolio. You are not available, Mr. Sullivan. Right? Right, Mr. Sullivan?
No comment.
Oh, no. Oh, that'll add to rumors.
Put me on the spot. Would you just put me on the spot?
You know?
You just had to start that one going, didn't you?
Well, somebody did. I started. It's been all over the paddock all weekend. What's Danny going to do? You going to lose Danny? No, I'm not. I got a handcuff on him. He's staying with me. So Rahal climbs the hill on a beautiful day here. Temperatures in the high 80s. It's been a cloudless sky right from the time the practice started. Brian Herta is the leader. All the pit stops are complete. Everybody has enough fuel to make the end. And so now it will be a sprint to the finish as we move to the closing laps here at Laguna Seca. Bobby Rahal, his teammate, Brian Herta, is leading the race. Rahal is in 7th place. The Team Ganassi sits second and third with Zanardi in second. Jimmy Vasser in 3rd place. That's the position Vasser needs for the championship. And sitting in the shade is Raul Boisel.
How do you think that Bobby Rahal feels? Like you said, 66 races ago, he won one, but he was the driver. What do you think that feeling is, knowing that his young protege, if you like, is the guy's other teammate is out there and going to look poised to win a race? And how do you think that Brian Herta feels? This is the time I enjoy the most. You got, say, 10 laps to go. You got Alex Zanardi very close behind you, and it's all yours to win for your very first victory.
Is that, it's enjoyable for you? Is it enjoyable for Herta? Or is it driving him nuts?
I'm sure his adrenaline's flowing, and I'm sure he'd like to have a big lead, but it's what you live for. This is some of the greatest moments because you're racing for that first victory.
So Brian Herta continues his lead here. Zanardi's right there working on him. The championship will be awarded here, and you'll see the presentation of the PPG Cup during the Canadian Open coverage following this run. Moving now within the final laps of the season with 9 to go.
And you see that gap there, that red car that came into view behind these two guys? That was Jimmy Vasser. I can tell you what he's thinking right now. He says, I've got a good lead right here on 4th spot. I've got this championship. I just got to finish it. I'm not going to race with those guys and take a chance on making a mistake or breaking anything.
Jimmy Vasser, who cut his racing teeth out here on the West Coast, comes from San Francisco. You name it, he drove it. That Jan Beekes' father, I think, even built some of his quarter midget motors. Looking for his first IndyCar championship. Couldn't go to a nicer young man. Pure racer. Focuses right on the season all the way.
And look at this. I mean, that for the 9 laps to go, look how close these guys are.
As you look there with 8 to go, the 8th position, the 9 car, that's Jan Magnussen, Emerson Fittipaldi's ride until the crash at the start of the Michigan 500. And not a solid indication there yet as what is going to happen with both Emerson and with that team for next year.
No, I don't. When I talked to those guys over the weekend, nobody knew for sure. I think a lot of that comes down to what Roger wants to do and Carl Hogan. Look at this, though. Now, these guys have a lot at stake. Right out there is Brian Herta. His first win, not very far away. But Alex Zanardi has a lot at stake, so does Chip Ganassi. If he wins that thing, he'd move into second in the championship, like you said. There's a lot of money difference there, but also a first and second in the championship for Chip Ganassi Racing if he were to get by.
Brian Herta slams down the gears, heads into the hairpin, Jan Bigas.
Yes, and of course the radio communications when you get to the final stages are always great down here on pit road. They're calling Brian Herta, and they keep saying over and over, Brian, you're the man. Brian, you're the man. You can do it. They're trying to give him all the encouragement they can down here from Team Ray Hall.
Yeah, but I tell you what, he's got the flying Italian right behind him. Zanardi, there's the radio communication going out from the man on the wall, Chip Ganassi, keeping track of both Jimmy Vasser and Brian Herta from his scoring stand. So Brian Herta leads it. Alex Zanardi's working on him. Jimmy Vasser is in third place. He can get the championship there. When we come back, we'll see how all of this resolves. Of course, the IndyCars also fight for the Nations Cup. That's a scoring system that determines, will it be an American, maybe a Brazilian like De Ferran, a Swede like Johansson, well, the United States, that ends up taking home the Nations Cup for the second year in IndyCar competition over Brazil, Canada, Italy, Mexico, and Sweden. Running now in the final laps. That's Andre Ribeiro over against the pit wall. Didn't contact, but apparently something happened, a small fire in the back of the car. They doused that all out with water. All the crew members for the different teams will keep plenty of water there, and also the IndyCar safety people were right there. They're going to leave the car right there. Alex Zanardi, they just reported, off and on the circuit. The course marshals here, you couldn't run this race without him. Let's take a look at this. Zanardi coming down under the bridge. Oh, that's a big mistake.
He is lucky that he didn't lose that completely there and hook it and spin it and move Jimmy Vasser up into second, but he recovered nicely, and look how far he is behind. Not very far at all.
You know what? That's more than a little unbelievable. Gary Gerald.
Chip Ganassi just a moment ago had a look at the monitor and saw that replay. What happened when you saw that replay?
I'll tell you, my heart skipped a beat. You can say that, Gary. My heart skipped a beat.
The emotion of this moment is you're getting so close now to wrapping up a championship for your other driver, Jimmy Vasser.
We saw at Elkhart Lake anything can happen, and it's far from over yet.
You're doing it without the good luck charm of Joe Montana today. It's got to be tough not having him here, particularly for him.
He was here all weekend, Gary, and he had to leave today for Italy on a business trip, and couldn't get out of it. But I know his wishes are here, and he gave us all good wishes last night, and he stayed here in Monterey until the last possible moment and took off for the airport.
Thanks, Chip. Good luck.
Thank you.
Zanardi still working on the leader, Brian Herta. 79 laps are complete. The sweep down the hill, the left-hander onto the pit straight. Climb up over the brow of the hill here, head for turn one. Flashing across the start-finish line. 80 laps now into the record book. 3 to go. What does Zanardi do? What is he capable of?
Well, he's got to try as hard as he can, but let me tell you, that little off that he almost had there before where he got in the dirt, that's a big wake-up call to him because he knows that he can push it, but not too far. He slid off. See, somebody else is just going off
Michael
there.
Off and on.
Michael's, boy, he's still trying, even with that broken. Look how hard he's driving that thing.
You can't ask for any more out of somebody like Michael. He's staying in there, keeping the car alive. Again, tracking the points. Vassar with the championship, but Michael, by keeping it out there, look at that. That's worth a lot of money. No wonder he's staying out there.
Oh, yeah. He didn't want to give that up.
Up at the front, it's still Brian Herta, Alex Zanardi, Jimmy Vassar is third, Scott Pruitt up the fourth, Mauricio Guzman is fifth. Brian Herta, Mercedes Power, may be driving Mercedes to its first victory of the year. And in counterpoint, they'll be changing over to Ford Cosworth for next year at that team. Roberto Moreno could jeopardize Michael in terms of points. Michael is in 12th place. He needs that 12th. If Roberto Moreno can take it away, he's lost points now. Now back to the front of the field. Whoa! Richie Hearn. Zanardi now right on the back of Brian Herta. Watching Zanardi. Key is on him.
I think that might have been a little bit to do with the traffic there with Richie Hearn. They had to get through there. But look how close this is. Boy, I tell you, Brian Herta's heart is pumping right now like you wouldn't believe.
Well, the pressure is on. Coming to the conclusion of the 82nd lap. They climb the hill. The white flag flies. There is one more lap to go in the IndyCar season. Can Brian Herta hang on for that lap?
Well, remember one thing, too. Zanardi's got to get right behind him, and then he's got to find a way past him. He's got to be able to pass him. Brian can't afford to make any mistakes here.
Zanardi is there. He can strike. Jimmy Vassar is in a position that is almost unassailable in the championship right now. He will come home first championship for Jimmy Vassar. Brian Herta, United States. Jimmy Vassar, United States. Two new names, both from the U.S. in this series that has become so international. So the battle for the PPG Cup. Look, oh, look at here he comes, and he gets him. Can he get him back? Can he hang on?
Oh, look at this.
Down through the barn on the final lap. Alex Zanardi, remember, twice we've had the change on the final lap of the race this year. Alex Zanardi at the top of the hill, an area you would not normally try and pass. Ducks the inside of Brian Herta, goes all the way off the course on the right-hand side, and Alex Zanardi, with a brilliant move, takes the checkered flag from the pole and the win here at Laguna Seca. Unbelievable. And the championship will go to Jimmy Vassar. Brian Herta finishes in second place. Jimmy Vassar from San Francisco. And at that moment, Jimmy Vassar is the IndyCar champion, the winner of the PPG Cup. And when we come back, we'll be talking with Jimmy Vassar as our new champion. And we'll take another look at that final lap. Speed World's presentation of the Toyota Grand Prix of Monterey featuring the Bank of America 300K has been brought to you today by Toyota Motorsports. Our minds are always racing. By Goodyear, #1 in tires. And by Texaco Haviland Formula 3 motor oil. Controls volatility and fights vaporization. Well, we had to wait until the final lap of the final race to see what may be the most spectacular pass of the year as Alex Zanardi moves around Brian Herta and picks up the lead. Here are the unofficial results of the run here at Laguna Seca in a day that paid off its promise all the way before a gigantic crowd here. And as Brian Herta has the race stolen from him at the last minute, Jimmy Vassar is passed by Scott Pruitt. It does not matter to the championship, though. It gives Pruitt a podium position, third place. But Jimmy Vassar is the champion, and he will receive the Indy Cup, the PPG Cup, the symbol of the IndyCar championship here. Unofficial results as we run through the entire field, and we wait for the opportunity to talk with Jimmy Vassar. Now, let's take a look, before we do that, though, at the replays of those final moments.
Unbelievable. Comes up the hill. I don't know why Brian didn't block him a little bit there just to protect his position. He dives through there. Look at this. He is just going for that win.
Look from down the hill looking up. He bounces over the curb, bounces over them again, keeps it under control. Herta's right there. He does have really a chance there and then a chance at the bottom. but he can't use it.
It's a chance, but I think he was defeated right there when that happened.
So the race, as a result, has been won by Alex Zanardi, and Jimmy Vasser has taken the championship, Gary.
Oh my. This is one of those things that you look forward to, and we're so fortunate to be able to kind of share on the periphery. Here's the team. Here's the champion, Jimmy Vasser, embraced from every direction, and right in front of him in bumper-to-bumper, wing-to-wing fashion, Alex Zanardi is just in front of him. We've talked so much about the pressure, Jimmy pulling off the gloves and the helmet, and now the pressure is gone. The $1 million payday looms. Jimmy Vasser, tell us how you played this day and how you're feeling right now.
Well, early on, we were just, I feel great. I mean, it's shit, the championship. All right.
Any concern?
We were cruising early on just to take care of the car, and then, you know, I could see that Al and Mike were having problems, and they were in no position pretty much, and we turned up the heat, and we were running better, and then we blistered the left front tire here at the end, and yeah, I was a little bit bummed out that Pruitt got around me, but hey, it's a championship, right?
And the party begins, Paul.
Well, congratulations to the Team Ganassi, and Ryan Herta climbs out. It was his with just 3 corners to go, and then it was snatched away on the very last lap by Alex Zanardi. Don't forget, coming up, we will be having coverage of the presentation of the PPG Cup. The INDYCAR season has come to an end, and a terrific end it was with a great new champion, Jimmy Vasser.